In mid-14th century, the printing press was invented, and that really transformed the way people got their information and got their news. And in the town crier era that I just spoke about, one could reach maybe tens and 20 or 30 or maybe 100 people at a time. But with the advent of printing press and it gaining a lot of popularity, suddenly you could reach thousands of people, tens of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people. And suddenly there was, the spread of information, which was very scarce till then, suddenly to a lot of people across market, across, huge area. And where we had such a great, this was the first mass media really, and where we had such a great mass media, obviously trade has to use it, and advertising has to use it. And so I've picked up some ads from 16th, 17th, 18th centuries, and you can see that people are busy over there selling great flour, they're selling good ground coffee, they're selling horses, they're selling musical instruments, even a trip on a cruise starting from London, and of course those endless dreams that people are chasing, that baldness is curable. Does it resonate today? Very much so. So you can see it has been the same people on both sides. Many, many centuries back, this is all that was getting advertised. 2 points I want to land you with over here. One, was this advertising successful? You bet it was. And why do I say so? Because these ads started as small little inserts at the back of newsprint initially. Obviously, people saw that it was working and products started getting sold. And bit by bit, they became bigger and started taking more prominent position in the newspapers. And clearly, that goes on to show that this was extremely successful. And mind you, it costs a lot of money to put ads into newsprint. And then, of course, we came into an era that in newspapers, we've had many days where there is more advertising than content, really. So clearly, that should establish to you how successful advertising is, because nobody wants to put money on things which are not going to work with their company, right? The other thing that I want to highlight over here is the great benefit that was derived from this in the printing era, in the printing press era, and that was the freedom of press. Because it costs a lot of money to run these printing presses and churn out newspapers after newspapers. It's not only the money for the printing machine, and it's not only the money for the newsprint that you have to purchase, but it is also the money that you have to pay for great journalism. It takes not only courage to cover far-flung battles and far-flung wars and the famine and everything else that is happening around the world. It takes a lot of courage and it takes a lot of money. So to be able to support that kind of journalism and to be able to support those kind of newsrooms and editorials, it took a lot of money. And a lot of that money came from advertising, and that ensured the freedom of press and freedom of the reporters, because a lot of money was coming from advertising. Nobody really had to be depending on the rich and the influential, and people could report exactly what was right and what was correct. And so that's a great benefit of advertising. Across centuries, it has held freedom of press in good stead. I'll move a few centuries ahead, and now we come into this exciting world of television. So mass media, again, reached another level of sophistication. And this is an era where I grew up. In the 80s, there were some households with black and white TV, and color TV had started coming in. And if I fast forward to the 90s, then, of course, there were lots of satellite channels which came to India, and suddenly there was an explosion of the kind of content that we could see. The kind of programming that we could see, and we were entertainment-starved society at that point in time, and it was really, really nice to have all these moving images and television in the household giving you so much of entertainment 24/7. And so it took mass media to another level of reach altogether. So in the print era, if we were reaching hundreds of thousands of people, now we were reaching millions of people at the same time. So tens of millions of people, hundreds of millions of people. Just for the record, today we reach more than 800 million people on TV alone in this country. So that was the powerful reach of this medium. More importantly, I want to highlight the fact that it also changed the way we told stories, and it changed the way we communicated, because this was an audiovisual medium. So here people didn't need to have the ability to to read really, and which was a big thing, because at that point in time, there were a lot of people who were illiterate. But they could take onto TV because it was an audiovisual medium. And of course, the kind of and the quality of drama and stories that it could tell was never possible in print. The fast-moving, colorful images, the joy and the fun, we sang with it, we danced with it. It was really great. And so it also was a medium of choice for advertising. And ads for a change now, instead of just announcing this is new in the product and that's new in the product, they could actually come out with beautiful stories in the background of selling the brand and really emotionally connect with people, because that was the power of the medium. And so this is the kind of advertising which was happening in the 80s and 90s. You can see powerful images of joy, of happiness, and whatever was being sold at that time. And I can tell you that this was the really heydays of television, and this was the time when some of the most iconic brands in the country were built, and some of the most iconic advertising came into play and could connect with consumers. And now that we were reaching millions of people across the breadth and width of the country, that gave rise to very powerful, what we call as national brands. Brands which could connect with people from north to south to east to west, from urban to semi-urban to rural. And so, such was the power of television reach and the powerful of the narratives of those brands, that some of the largest selling brands in India today are also the largest selling brands globally, be it a skin cream brand, be it a biscuit brand, be it a two-wheeler brand. These are some of the largest selling brands globally. And a lot of that had to do with the power of television advertising. Here, I want to just also recount a little story, my personal story. I was a small girl at that point in time, and there was this ad which caught my fancy. I'm not going to talk about the brand, but it was a talcum powder ad, which I had nothing to do with, because I was staying in a cold place and there was no use for talcum powders over there. But it was a very interesting story, very powerful story they showed in that ad, where there was this young girl from college who is getting into an interview room, and she enters this boardroom, and there are very intimidating people sitting across the large table over there, where she's supposed to go and sit and answer all the questions that these interviewers are going to ask her. And of course, she's applied that talc, and that talc has worked, and she has a lot of confidence, and she answers all those questions, and of course, is successful. Now, all those moving images left such an impact on my mind at that young age, that sitting in that small city, in front of a small TV, with no idea of what the world is like outside of my own hometown, with no idea of what corporates are, with no idea of what the corporate world is like. That moment, I wanted to be that girl who was that successful and changed things in the boardroom. That's the power of advertising, and that's why when we say advertising, it's not only selling products, it's also shaping society, it's also shaping narratives, and it is hopefully making a more progressive society. So it's not only about selling brands, it's more than that. And you are aware that a lot of brands talk about, support diversity, they support inclusion. Those are the kind of images that are put up, sustainability and all of that. So that was the television era, and now, of course, we come to the digital era, which you are very, very familiar with. Digital really disrupted everything that we did. So if you look at people, the way they behaved, that behavior has changed forever. So today, the way people bank, the way people shop, the way people interact with each other, the way people inform themselves has changed forever. People don't really go to the newspaper all the time because they already know breaking news from many other platforms. And who better than you to know about this? Because you are what we call the digital natives. You have born in an era where there are multiple screens in the house. There is a television and a tablet and a couple of phones, and everything is seamlessly connected. There's data everywhere. That's the world you are very familiar with, so I don't have to elaborate on that. and you are already logged into everything. So you get up in the morning, you look at your social feeds, you're logged in over there, you see, okay, all is okay with your friends. You search for something, you're already logged in over there. You're checking a mail, you're already logged in over there. As a result of which, all these platforms know a lot about you. In fact, maybe almost everything. So they know how old are you, what is your what is your location, what is your preferred language, what do you like, what do you search for, what do you buy, pretty much everything. And what it ensures is that there is a lot of personalization that is possible. And so what happens to advertising in this era? Because you're not on television and you're not on print, what happens to that? Well, advertising follows you exactly where you are. They'll chase you and find you where you are. And in a manner now very different from what we used to do in the television world. Now it is more personalized. So the ad that gets possibly seen by you and served to you could be pretty different from what gets served to you. Maybe because of your location, maybe because of your preferences, maybe because of what you are looking for when you're shopping, and so on and so forth. So that whole area it is an algorithm-driven world. And so that is pretty much also in advertising. A lot of it depends on what you really like to watch. The other thing it has helped us do really is to give you interactive content so that you can play around with it. You can do a mini game, you can do a mini poll, and of course, immersive experiences. How many of you, when you're buying, say, a gaming chair, you look at it, okay, how is it going to look in my room? All of that is possible. So that is how the shape of advertising has changed as we've come to this era. And these are some of the examples how advertising looks very different from what it was in the print and the television era. And so a lot of you, at the age of 5, wanted to be YouTubers, right? You wanted to be YouTubing, and a lot of people are following all these influencers. And so wherever you are, wherever your eyeballs are, which is where we are, so advertising is now done along with influencers. In between the feeds that you're seeing, you will see that somehow all the brands that you like or brands that are trying to sell to you, somehow they emerge over there. User-generated content is used a lot, which is the content which you create yourself, and that keeps emerging as well all around. How many of you have used filters of your favorite stars and favorite brands and favorite movies that you've watched and put it on social media? So that's further, more spread of the message. And of course, last and not the least, the gamers in the house. All right, so you are going to be there gaming and not getting out of there. So we are going to catch you there. So all those signs and signals and all those billboards that you see, it's all thanks to advertising. So advertising will always find a way to reach you wherever you are. And with that, what does the future hold? Really, que sera, sera. What will be, will be. Nobody can say that. But one thing is for sure. This is the legacy of advertising. It has been there since trade has been there, since human civilizations have been there, and it will continue in the future as well. Wherever there are buyers, wherever there are sellers, you are going to find advertising, and the future for advertising, I presume, is pretty bright. It's also very transformative. We spoke about some of these points. It propels economy, not only by selling products and selling brands, but it also helps consumers make better choices. Of course, there's always the bad with the good, and there are certain negatives and the dark side to it. It possibly promotes a lot of consumerism and promotes a lot of over-consumerism and over-consumption, which is not great, and it leads to what we call as fast fashion and this whole mentality of disposing products quickly. So all of that also is, those are parts which are not really great. So is advertising, it has a transformative legacy. Is it a boon or is it a bane? I just want to leave you with a thought that the answer pretty much lies in your hands. Some of you, like some of the speakers, they talked about it, some of you will go ahead and are going to head some businesses and big corporations and be part of MNCs. Always remember that advertising is a very, very powerful tool. So you should use it wisely. And each one of you is going to be the consumer. You are a consumer today, and you are going to be even a bigger consumer tomorrow.